What's going on, everybody? It's your boy PTK Blam back in the building with another episode of the Shop Podcast. How are all you beautiful people doing out there in YouTube land, man? Shout out to everybody watching live. Shout out to everybody that's going to be pulling up later on, watching on the replay. We greatly appreciate all of you guys hanging out with us, man. Sorry for the late start as well. Had a couple little technical issues, but we gonna make it through, man. We had a good week. Glad to see everybody, man. It's been a good week for me. You know, it's my Friday today, so, you know, I feel really good. Got 3 days off coming up, so feeling really energized, man. Got a lot to talk about this week. As you guys can see from the title, we got the three amigos here tonight. No guests, so we rocking out. But once again, retweet that link out, share, let everybody know the Shop Podcast is live. Come get your gaming podcast fixed this Saturday. Hang out with us, man. But let me get to my brothers. I know we got a late start, but I missed you, fellas. We're going to start with you, Pong. What's up, brother? I know you got the new mic situation, but we gonna make it work today, man. We're going to get through this. How you been?
Doing good. Yeah, got the new mic. Thanks. Shout out to, of course, Mr. Generosity of the community, Decado, the one and only Decado, and, of course, the brother from another Steel Rain for making this happen. I wasn't going to do anything until after the new year, but Decado hit us up on Living Split Screen a couple weekends ago and contributed to help get me a mic before the new year. So the other one was working okay, but I just kept having little problems, so decided to get another one. This isn't the final upgrade. That'll happen down the road. I still want an XLR big boy, and I definitely want to do that, but hopefully this one's going good. It worked very well on PM and the PM. Mav was really happy with it. So here we are tonight, and last weekend I did not get to do the show.
You there for us?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Oh, there you are.
Mic check.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Good?
Yeah,
we all
okay.
good? We all good? Okay. Yeah, I can hear both of you, so I don't know if anybody else can hear me or not. So
yeah, did you get out for you first?
No, everything was clear.
Oh, okay. So it was just
good,
PTK.
good.
God, you're
Maybe
scaring me,
just me.
PTK.
Sorry about that, brother.
I know. Listen, after what happened last weekend, bro, I was like, no, we ain't doing this again.
We're good.
All right. No. Great to be back on Saturday night. Since last weekend was a shit show with my tech side of things. Hopefully everything's good there. Didn't have any issues on Thursday night. So it hasn't been perfect, but I redid everything, so hopefully that's not going to happen anymore. I apologize for everybody for not being able to finish out the show last weekend. It was a mess. But anyways, great to be back here. I'm fighting off this cold that I've had now for 7 days, just about 7 days. Tomorrow will be 7th day. It's getting better each day, but nighttime shows up, and the sinuses kick in, and I get this annoying catch in my throat. Now, as you guys can tell, Thursday night I couldn't even host the show on Thursday night, so I'd have Mav do it because I was coughing so much. So I'm getting better, but if you guys hear me mute mid-sentence, it's because I'm having a coughing fit. They come from time to time. But great to be back here. Excited to talk some gaming. It has been nothing but Diablo Vessel of Hatred. Me and Steel rocked out last weekend.
Nice.
Mech Warrior Clans last weekend, the new Mech Warrior game that dropped into Game Pass as a surprise. We rocked out on Clans for 5 hours, live streamed it on Sunday last weekend. We both had a blast. It is a AA mech game, but my God, it's a surprise. No risk. It's in Game Pass, so it's amazing. We had a good time with that. But then, of course, this week it's Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and we're gonna get into it. Oh, yeah. So I got nothing to sell. Oh, here we go. See, I got nothing to sell. Excuse me. I got nothing to sell this week, except if you like mech games, go check Mech Warrior Clans out. Mech Warrior 5 Clans out. If you've got a buddy or two, jump in there in the co-op mode. It is a great mech game, and Steel and I really like the updates that they've done to Mech Warrior 5. This is a standalone expansion. It's got a full story. It's fully acted.
Yeah, I
great
downloaded it. I didn't realize it was like 50-something gigs. I said, wait a minute now. I said, this is actual full game.
Oh yeah, no, this is a full game, and they've changed up a lot of some of the mechanics from Mech Warrior 5, and made it a better game overall than what we had from Mech Warrior. Even though Steel and I did enjoy Mech Warrior 5 when we did that co-op as well. But we're gonna get back to this one. We're gonna finish this one. I think we're gonna get through the missions. But we did 5 hours, had a blast. So go check it out. No risk. But of course, again, if you're just playing Diablo right now, if you're just playing Starfield with Shattered Space, or you're just playing Diablo with Vessel of Hatred, I don't blame you right now. These are time sink games that are now out. Metaphor Refantasio, which
man.
I have not had a chance to like jump into the way that I want to. Like I get it. So if you're not looking to play a new game like MechWarrior 5 Clans, I get it. But my God, what a great time to be a gamer. And it's just getting better every week. We are now in full-fledged Christmas mode as gamers. So great to be back, everybody. Let's get down to business, PTK. Love you all. It's great to see you this weekend.
Man, let's get it, man. Appreciate you, man. You guys already know what to do, man. Shout out to you, Pong, for being here every single week, man. Shout out to, we don't got much of a sales pitch today, but it's all good, brother. We got a whole hell of a lot to talk about. We've been playing a whole hell of a lot of games, and that's all that really matters at the end of the day. So hope you feel better sooner than later as well, brother. Appreciate you, hanging in there with us today, man. Thank you so much for coming through, man. Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere, man, always hanging out. Mr. Smooth's playing some game. Hey, look, he done already went down the list. I've been playing the same goddamn thing. I ain't even downloaded COD yet. It's crazy. Like, I ain't even downloaded it yet. By the way, the game is huge. I thought they was going to condense the size. I thought they talked about condensing the size of the download. I don't know how much condensing they did because it's still freaking massive. But outside of that, how you been, brother? What you been playing?
Oh, a little bit of everything. I tried a little bit of Call of Duty's campaign. Like it so far. Been bouncing around, just getting some gamer score. Finished up some outstanding achievements on Power Washer, which of all things I figured just get some points for that. But other than that, hop back into State of Decay 2 for a little bit. They did their final update, so they unlocked a lot of the stuff that was seasonal that came and went type of thing. So those are readily available or able to be found in the open world and stuff like that. So for anybody that may have missed some of the seasons, some of the special clothing or weapons, they are now in the general loot pool. So that's a cool thing for that, especially with them now switching the focus back to, or switching it to State of Decay 3. So still looking forward to that, but I'm going to get my zombie fix in State of Decay 2 in the meantime. But other than that, been playing a little bit of Outer Worlds, still on my sci-fi kick a little bit, still playing Forza Horizon 5. I think I'm at 100 or 811 cars now, as far as like without duplicates or anything like that. So still collecting as many cars as I can get. Still got one more to collect, an Aston Martin this week. But other than that, just been bouncing around from everything in Game Pass and picking up some stuff on Steam. Picked up the whole Don't Starve collection for me and my wife. She already had it on PS4 and PS5, but figured get it on PC so that way we can play on the same platform at the same time, kind of thing. But and picking up a couple other games on sale, like I can't remember, but it's a lot of like duplicates that I may have had either on PlayStation or on Xbox, just so I can have it on the Steam Deck now, type of thing, without having to do streaming. But man, there's so many games, not enough time, not enough hours in a day. Even if being retired, it still feels like you're always playing catch up on that backlog kind of thing.
Yeah,
but,
definitely, always.
Yeah. Glad to be here, man. So much to talk about, especially with Call of Duty. Yeah, first party. This is the big one for the year. We got another one coming before the end of the year, but this is the one that everybody gets to play at the same time. And looks like everybody, even those that said that, oh well, I'm not going to play anymore. It's not what it used to be now that Xbox owns it. Whatever. They're playing it. They just got their
profile sets
offline and stuff. So they're playing it begrudgingly, but still enjoying it. But glad to be here. Let's talk some games.
Let's get into it, man. I guess I'll break it down. I don't usually say a whole lot about my week, but I've been playing a bunch of, you already talked about it, Paul. That Vessel of Hatred. That's a super big time sink for me. I play that just about as much as I can when I do get some free time. So I've been grinding, playing the hell out of that, doing all of the hard difficulty. Got to bump it up to Torment 2 at this point, because Torment 1 is like, I think I've kind of gotten everything out of that I could at this point. But outside of that, man, I haven't been playing much. I haven't gotten a chance to download COD. I did watch the stream yesterday. So So shout out to you guys. Shout out to Matt for the stream. I was creeping. I didn't post anything, but I was watching you guys for a little bit while I was doing something in the kitchen. And the game looked fun. You guys look like you guys have fun. For all intents and purposes, man, this is the one. This is, and I guess we're going to roll right into it. So shout out to everybody watching live. Retweet that link out. So we getting right into it. If you didn't know, we talking pretty much everything COD this week. It's the biggest thing that happened this week. And I'm going to kind of lay it out for you guys. And I'm going to just let you guys go crazy, Pong and Fuzz, really, because I really want to hear you guys' opinion. Especially you guys played it. You guys got some firsthand experience, some campaign, some multiplayer. I don't know how much zombies either one of you guys played. Any you guys jumping at all yet?
Not yet.
No zombies for me.
No zombies yet.
Yeah, round-based zombies.
You like the open world. You prefer the open world, right?
I'm not going to say I'm not going to play because I will probably wind up playing with other people. But yeah, I do prefer the open world zombies.
Fair.
But I've seen tons of people talking about it. So, anyways,
fair. So two out of three is good. So at least we can get at least a good surmise of what you guys think of the game overall. But just once again, laying it all out here, man. This is something that we talked about, Pong, Fuzz, when that deal happened, right? This is the whale, right? This is the whale of the deal. Obviously, King was big, all the other stuff was big, but Call of Duty was really what made this whole deal divisive in the first place. Where is COD gonna be? Who can play it? How long they can play it? Where's the DLC going to be? All that good stuff, right? That was the big talk of the town forever. And, we said it for a long time, man. What's this going to look like? How is it going to play out? What is this next COD going to be? And my, what a one to get. I would say this, first and foremost, this is great timing for Xbox, I would say, Pong and Fuzz. Fantastic timing. So imagine this one being the last place, the one PlayStation gets last. Right? Imagine this one being the one they get last to market. So, and the timing and all of that, right? It's imperative. I know that one last year wasn't supposed to happen, but damn it was a great idea that they did put it out just to get from under that contract, that obligation.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, this one would have been the one PlayStation got going out the door.
Yeah, it could have been, yeah, for sure.
So I just, laying it all out there, and obviously we talking about the game here. That's really just the outside, but just talking about the game as a whole, we're going to start there because that's what really matters, but we'll tie it all in with the Xbox stuff too because that's part of it. But Pong, I mean, me laying it out there on the table for you, bro, just your overall, just, I don't want to say review, but thoughts and, ideas on the game, but then connect that to the Xbox and where we talked about when the deal started to where it is now.
Yeah, perfect timing, I guess, is the key point that you just brought up here, PTK. So, and Psychonauts, if you listen, tell me how my mic sounds to y'all.
That's better. It's definitely better.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate that.
Definitely.
So I did some adjustments in the background. So just let me know if there's any more issues. Hey, listen, nobody knew how this Call of Duty was going to hit over the past, couple years. It's always been a mixed bag. And again, anytime you get a game that's this big and this popular, you're never going to make everybody happy out of the fandom. And then on top of it, you got Warzone, which really has become the main Call of Duty at this point. As far as the most played continuously, obviously, that's what Warzone was designed to do. Classic style multiplayer is not the same as it used to be, just in general with any of the games. And we've seen that for the past decade, kind of just lessen and lessen and lessen. You've had things like Call of Duty Vanguard come out, which got booed royally, but it was still a great seller, right? Of course, because everybody's still going to buy Call of Duty, but it wasn't the biggest thing. Then Modern Warfare 2, and then of course Modern Warfare 3 last year. Now that's when I hopped back in. I skipped Vanguard. I didn't play Modern Warfare. I had last played World War II. That was the last one I had played, and then I'd skipped. Came back to Modern Warfare 2 late as part of the family. Kind of got interested back into Call of Duty. I used to play Call of Duty just like everybody else back in the day. I used to take off a day or two of work. Me and my buddies would take a day or two off of work. We'd all get together and play. Again, this and Battlefield, my two main stays forever. I liked Battlefield better, but I wasn't the Halo guy. So these were my two, along with Gears, of course, but I'm talking first-person shooters. These were my two first-person shooters. So, but I had taken a break. Call of Duty just wasn't what it was to me anymore. And I say all of this for a reason, okay? there was a lot of talk around Call of Duty for Xbox, and I'll mix this in while I talk about my personal feelings on Call of Duty this year. There was a lot of talk about Call of Duty, obviously with the ABK deal and what it was going to do. You had a pretty loud contingent in this community, and the reason why I use this community is because this is who we interact with. A lot of times this is where a lot of the talking points come from, is the loudmouths in this community on both sides, and the rest of us thrown in the mix. But there was a large contingent of people, including some journalists, who believed that Call of Duty was done, that it had seen its best days, and that Xbox was buying a degraded IP. Obviously, that wasn't the only thing they were buying. Obviously, we know that they had a lot of other things wrapped up in the ABK, and we talked about all that.
The whole Bobby Kotick stuff.
Yeah. But it was just so much more value that Microsoft was looking at the end of the day than just Call of Duty. But the facts are the facts that Call of Duty was one of the big shining diamonds in all of this. And we went through the whole Game Pass or not Game Pass. And we went through the exclusive, not exclusive deal. And obviously, we all know how it wrapped up. But there was a lot of people who thought that Call of Duty had seen its best days,
and that was fair enough.
It's very fair. So I picked up Modern Warfare 2, really enjoyed Modern Warfare 2. I actually really liked Modern Warfare 3. I know some people don't. I loved the nostalgia of the old maps. I know that it was just DLC turned into a full-fledged release for, according to those of us that speculate on this stuff, right, PTK? We speculated. They turned it into a full-fledged release to get out of the marketing deal, right?
Yeah, we got to get that one out the way.
To fulfill it, right? So I understood that, but I really enjoyed myself in Modern Warfare 3, and I thought it played very well, and I really, really just thought it was a well-done Call of Duty. So I didn't know what to expect out of this one. Obviously knew it was Treyarch. Obviously knew they had the longest time that's been given to a Call of Duty game in a very, very long time. And so the high hopes, right, that they were going to come through. And then we started seeing the Omni movement and all that kind of stuff. Listen, I didn't get to talk last week, so I'm being a little bit long-winded here. But I think it's good to bring back up kind of the path that we got here. Call of Duty Black Ops 6, the beta drops. And we all jumped into it. A lot of us jumped into it. And we went, holy shit. The Omni movement is not a gimmick. The Omni movement actually feels really good. This is not some tacked on thing that they're just throwing in there like we've seen in the past with Call of Duty just to say that they did something different, or even talk about Maddens or 2Ks that they say, oh, we changed the whole tackling mechanic, and you get in there and it's like, come on, bro, come on. And we've seen it with Call of Duty. Call of Duty's done some gimmick stuff. This Omni movement felt natural. It felt refined. It felt like something that they have been working on for this extended period that they were given. So great. It's on its way up. Get super excited for this. Then people start getting hands-on as we get closer to launch, and they're talking more about it. And we find out that Raven did the campaign, which Raven is a freaking amazing studio. I love Raven. They did the campaign. We start seeing some of the marketing around the campaign. We get a little bits of glimpses of the story, and you're going, oh shit, here we go. There's one thing Activision knows how to do. It's marketing. They've always marketed their Call of Duty games. They always look like the story is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread every year. Even when they don't turn out that way, you still go into it going, oh shit, we might have a really good campaign here. Now that's been hit or miss. Some people didn't like what they did. Obviously with Modern Warfare 3, that was the big miss. We know the low review scores that got because of how they designed the open world. But then we found out Raven was going to go for obviously a more focused narrative.
More linear.
So here we go. We got the multiplayer looking good, and there's some positivity around the campaign. This dropped this week, and I gotta say, now I bounced back and forth between the campaign and the multiplayer. I'm like level 20 in the multiplayer, just over 20 in the multiplayer, and I'm on the fifth mission in the campaign now. Hands down, and again, this is coming from somebody who enjoyed Modern Warfare 2 and enjoyed Modern Warfare 3. Hands down, this is the best, most complete Call of Duty in the past decade plus. This is hands down generational Call of Duty. And again, I'm not the professional Call of Duty player. I'm not the I love the multiplayer. I'm the classic multiplayer guy. I don't like Warzone. This is without zombies because again, the turn-based zombies isn't my thing. I'm just going to talk strictly about right now what I've played, which is the multiplayer, the classic multiplayer, and the campaign. This is hands down a throwback, a generational throwback to the 360, to the heyday of Call of Duty. Now, again, does that mean this is a perfect game? Of course not.
No. Yeah.
Does that mean you're going to get every fan to all agree on this? Of course not. It's too big for that. But what I am telling you as an old school Call of Duty player, again, but when Xbox did their anniversary and we got to look at our top Xbox games played of all time, Call of Duty, 2 of them were number 1. Right? Modern Warfare, the classic Modern Warfare, and I can't remember what the other one was, were my number 1 and 2 played games all time on Xbox hours.
Yeah,
Okay. Now I had multiple usernames like most people did during the 360 generation. So all my stats are in there, whatever. But I'm just saying, back in the day, me and the kiddo, myself, my boys, we all played Call of Duty religiously every single year. I was one of those people along with all my other games. So yes, I do have perspective on this. When I say this is the closest that we have gotten to the 360 feeling of campaign and multiplayer both hitting from a Call of Duty since that period of time. This is a special Call of Duty. I saw Mav put out an X post today asking if Call of Duty could be nominated for Game of the Year. I think this one, if there's ever going to be a shot that it gets even talked about, that Call of Duty breaks through, this is the one right here.
Wow,
this
I didn't expect that.
Yeah. No. There is nothing. I don't hate anything about this game at all. I don't dislike anything about this game. I got little things here and there that I would tweak, but whatever. Nothing major. This is pure, unadulterated Call of Duty fun. The campaign has got a good, great story for Call of Duty. It's not Oscar worthy, okay? But is it gripping? Yes. I was an adult during Gulf War, during the 90s. Y'all know how much I love the 90s, right? Like being in this setting with this intrigue that, of course, is all made up, right? But these stories and the way that they're portraying it has got me like not a whole lot of Call of Duties have done, where I'm invested in the characters and the mission levels. Let me tell you something. You allow me to Splinter Cell mission levels out the gate with stealth, and you make it so that it's halfway fun and decent for me, because that's what I like to do in these types of games, I'm in. I'm sold. Sure, we still got to have our missions where we're hot all the time, or we're just going Rambo.
We got to get the Michael Bay.
Got to get that too, but you give me cool-ass multiple ways to deal with enemies, and you get me replaying levels to keep my streak of stealth kills going without getting caught. You know you've done something right, Raven. And I see you, Raven, because Raven has knocked this campaign out of the freaking park. And then I go through those levels, and then you got the little mansion, as people know. Again, I'm not gonna talk spoiler stuff here, but you got the mansion, which people know. You got the mansion. There's puzzles in the mansion you solve. You can upgrade the mansion. This is where you get together before you go on your next mission. Get to talk to everybody, build those relationships. It's standard, but it works well, and it's done extremely well. So that is awesome. And then I get through my stealth missions, and all of a sudden now I get to go hot in a mission. And now all of a sudden, PTK, all of a sudden I'm on this mission. I've already seen people saying it's one of the best Call of Duty missions people have ever played, or has been in decades as far as a campaign mission goes. We all of a sudden got an open world in Iraq that makes sense, and it's fun. And it's a blast, and there's things to go discover, and there's exploration if you want to. You can just go straight do the missions, but there's other shit to go find out in the desert, and it's dope. Again, I'm not going to ruin anything, but it's cool as hell. Yeah. I'm having a good time. That's where I'm at right now. And then the multiplayer. Everything feels right. There's always going to be balancing stuff they can do. There's always going to be tweaks they can do. This is multiplayer. We know this. You're never going to nail everything on the first try. It's near impossible. But bringing back a simplified armory with the weapons, giving me clear, concise UI for the upgrades that's not confusing, that's not convoluted, which we've seen in just the past couple of Call of Duties. even if they looked really great, they didn't necessarily work the most efficient. They brought all of that back. It's clear, it's present, and it's just easy for this old guy to jump in and understand what I'm unlocking, what I now have, what my camos are available, and what weapons feel good to me. Hands down, just great. 120 frames on the OLED, beautiful. Flawless, no stuttering, no rubber banding. I've had zero connectivity issues to this point. Again, knock on wood. We all know how this goes. But right now, nothing. Zero problems whatsoever in the multiplayer. The multiplayer feels great. Even when I'm teamed up with Jasper and the rest of the fam that are better than me, and I get my ass kicked because of skill-based matchmaking, still having a fucking fun time. Right? I jump in by myself with randos today. Skill-based matchmaking kicks me back to my level. Guess what? Placing top 3 almost every single game. Feeling great about myself. Right? That's what it's supposed to be about. Feeling like I'm having a great time. The maps, I don't have any maps that I dislike right now, which is rare. I don't have any that I dislike. Sure, there's always going to be some that are better than the other ones, but my God, have they done a great job going back and looking at what the classic maps of Call of Duty were with the 3 lanes. They always said, well, we keep the 3 lanes. The 3 lanes are important, but man, let's be real. If you go back and play some of these Call of Duties over the past decade, they got away from that in a lot of instances. They have brought back the classic 3-lane maps, and they have done an exquisite job of designing them. Do you still have your small maps that are just freaking just kill zones? Yes, of course you do. Do you have spawn issues from time to time? Of course you do. It's going to happen. But do any of those things take away from my fun because I'm not competing on a professional level in Call of Duty? Absolutely not. I've been dealing with this shit for 30 years. You think it really matters at this point now? Well, let's not say 30, not quite yet. 25 years I've been dealing with this stuff. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't take away. It's not egregious. It's not happening all the time because they spent their time well. They took the extra time that they were given, and Treyarch polished the shit out of this multiplayer. Even though this multiplayer mode, the classic multiplayer stuff, isn't as big as it used to be, they took time and care with it. And to me, that means the world. That they went back and said, well, we're going to give you Omni movement. We're going to make sure that that's polished. But we also know, even though multiplayer isn't our bread and butter anymore, war zones and, of course, zombies with Treyarch is going to be our bread and butter. We're still going to spend the time to make sure those people that like to play the multiplayer are going to feel right at home. And we're going to bring back that classic Call of Duty feel to it. They've done it in spades. I love what I'm playing right now. I'm not getting sick and tired of it. I'm not getting pissed off at it outside of the normal adrenaline rush you get from Call of Duty and getting some bullshit plays against you, all that kind of normal stuff. That's okay. I'm cool with that stuff. I am just loving the hell out of the multiplayer right now. So, hands down, the best Call of Duty in decades that I've played personally, right now, again, I got to play some more. I got to finish out the campaign. Let you know, I'm probably going to touch zombies at some point with some people, and maybe this round-based zombies will be something that I actually enjoy. And I'll be like, okay, they even hit that. But right now, even without the zombies mode, I don't care about that. It's just an added extra for me. This is a great game. And to wrap it up with a bow for Xbox, no better time to get those marketing rights back, to be able to pump the shit out of your ads. And again, yes, would I like to see more Game Pass ads? Would I like to see more some of that stuff? Of course. But at the end of the day, if you're paying attention, people know that Call of Duty is back with Xbox. They now know it. The marketing has made that clear. Xbox themselves have made that clear. It's back home. And I know some people hate that too. Like, oh, it never really left the Xbox community. No, it didn't. But what they're talking about is the marketing, because that was Xbox 360. Call of Duty, Gears, and Halo dominated. That's why I got the bro shooter box. Mm-hmm. That's why I got that. And Call of Duty was a big piece.
Conversations.
No, Call of Duty was that big piece, along with the other two homegrown. That was a giant piece. The fact that Xbox now controls its destiny, and the fact that it so happens to be one of the best Call of Duties and a lot of people's opinions right now. And again, those things are subject to change. We all know this. But as of right now, the collective mind right now is saying this is the best Call of Duty, hands down, that people have played. People are coming back to it because of Game Pass. No risk. People are coming back to it just because of the hype surrounding it. The fact that that's all lining up right now this year for Xbox after they bought ABK, and this is one of your crowning jewels, absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal timing to have this all happen at this time. So, yeah, hats off to everybody. Again, Treyarch, Raven, my God, you guys crushed it. Absolutely crushed this.
Man, I did not expect Game of the Year conversation. I didn't hear that. I didn't see that on FFP. Yeah. But that is insane. I did not expect that. Now, I've heard some of those sentiments. I've seen a lot of that on the timeline, to be fair. But once again, my thing is, the big thing about this is that what a hell of a timing, man, for this to be up under the umbrella that Xbox has, and for this to be associated with the Xbox brand. I know people can say what they want about the marketing, and it could be more or less. And they can do a little bit more in commercials, things like that. But like you said, I think everybody knows at this point, you know, what Black Ops 6 is synonymous with. They've said it multiple times. Every single time they've got an opportunity, they've made sure it was extremely clear that this is a huge part of Xbox, and it will continue to be. We're going to make everything fair across the board. You know, we're not taking anything away from anybody, but we're also going to make sure our guys are well taken care of here as far as Game Pass.
Yep.
Right? So they pretty much knocked it out the park, and then obviously the game has to deliver, and it sounds like it's delivering on all fronts. So that's hell of a job by Raven, like you said. Extremely underrated dev. I don't think this is the first campaign. Didn't they do Black Ops 1 or 2, or was that World at War? I felt didn't they do a campaign?
I'd have to go back and look. I'm sure they probably have. I don't know if they've ever done a solo, all of it, or if they help. I don't know. I felt
like they've done a campaign before. Chat, let us know if they've done a previous. I don't know if it was BO1 or 2. I felt like they've done a campaign before for Treyarch. I'm not 100%. It could even have been World at War.
It certainly could have been. And again, just even something small too, PTK. To bring back the Prestige. Right?
Oh yeah,
that harkens back, and you don't know what that means. People poo-poo that, but for us old heads, bro, that is another thing that will keep me playing this game now.
You need
that
1,000 levels
there. Those Prestige not that I'm ever gonna max Prestige. I never did back in the day, but that little carrot, you don't know what that means to those of us that actually played Call of Duty back in the day like that, what that actually feels like. That little stupid hit of dopamine from that's been missing is like something big at the end of the day, because it really does feel like Treyarch said, we are gonna bring it back to we're underneath Xbox's umbrella. Yes, we're still putting our game everywhere, but god damn it, we're gonna bring back the old Call of Duty. And I really think they tried with this one in a lot of ways, and obviously upgraded it, the Omni Move, it kept it modern, all that good shit. But my God, what a phenomenal job they've done all the way around right now.
Oh, they're crushing it. And like you said, the theme seems to be less is more with this Call of Duty. And that 4-year dev cycle, muy bien, paying off. Absolutely paying off, brother. And I don't know if that's going to be a regular thing going forward. We've always asked for that to be the case. Please just skip a couple years, allow them to cook, allow people to, miss the IP, because the every year thing was not cutting it. The quality obviously went down the drain. And I think we can all agree, new and old fans of Call of Duty can agree, that was probably the biggest issue, man. You just could never really fall in love with one, right? Because the new one was like an iPhone. The new one was coming out the next year, good luck. So
Raven did do Cold War too. So.
Yeah. Okay. So it was Cold War? Okay. Okay. So I knew it was another campaign that they did as well too. So they do have some experience there. But shout out to Raven for killing it. I heard they cooked some of those campaign missions. I heard are some of the best ever out of all the series. I really feel like the last great Call of Duty was Black Ops 2. That was the last really great generational Call of Duty. I had probably 2,000, 3,000 hours in that game. I had so many hours in that game. So I trust Treyarch. I've always said I felt like they were the better studio. I know me and you go back and forth about that, Pong. We kind of it's kind of even across the board when you really look at it in totality.
Yeah.
I just prefer
because when
Treyarch.
you throw the classics
you throw
in there,
everything in there.
you throw the classics in there.
It evens out.
Those are mine, like the Modern Warfare, because
Yeah.
Modern Warfare, the original, is my favorite one. So that's where it goes. Yeah. That's where I still say it's a 2-horse race, but I do get it.
Yeah. I just prefer the Treyarch style. You know, the way they're able to tell the story. The way they do campaign things, it's a bit more rugged, you know, to my liking. But either way, great job, either way across the board. But let's get Fuzz in on this, man. I know you've been playing Fuzz too. Listen, man, I didn't think you got. So if you say some game of the year stuff, if you talking about high quality here, I know we got something, man. Because I know you guys, we play these games, but we don't play Call of Duty like that anymore. You know what I mean? We're pretty detached from the IP. So for us to really talk about this game in the way we're talking about it, it says a lot.
Yeah, I think for me, the only thing missing for me that would make it like my go-to game over some others would be a third-person option in campaign. That's it.
Yep.
For the most part, love the way the campaign is. I kind of skipped Modern Warfare 3 because I figured I'd wait until it came to Game Pass. Bought Modern Warfare 2 way back. I guess that was like 3 or 4 years ago now, but totally enjoyed it. It wasn't quite the same storyline as the original, but I like their modern twist to it. And this one seems like it's as much as I enjoyed Cold War, this is a better Black Ops, I think, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not the biggest Black Ops fan. I'm more of a Modern Warfare fan.
Yeah.
But I do like the fact that they made the mansion, you know, at least something that you can customize based on some of the missions that you run, depending on how much funds you collect and what you can upgrade and what you can, you know, put.
It sounds like it adds replayability because you just kind of you could not level things up, but like you said, if you can kind of customize it and add different things, you might want to run through that mission a few times to try and see, you know what I mean, how well you do each time or something.
Exactly. It definitely gives you a lot of replayability for those that are just more so the campaign guys as opposed to the multiplayer, which I eventually will get into the multiplayer, but I usually try to beat the campaign, although I'm doing it bit by bit as opposed to this, you know, doing it in like 2 or 3 sittings type of deal. But for the most part, all the moves, all the, you know, weapons, you know, that I've come across so far that you can normally pick up from the missions and things like that, or some of the things that you can find, you know, like the exploration aspect. I guess that was some of the stuff that they put into Modern Warfare 3. I'm glad that they carried some of that aspect over. But yeah, I would say overall, the only one thing, well, the one thing I would love to see is a third person perspective option for campaign. I know that's not what Call of Duty has been all these years, but you know, given how things have, you know, changed or you know, some of the modes that they've added to multiplayer more recently, that's the only thing missing for me. Other than that, the movement, the storyline, I mean, it's like playing an action movie pretty much with, you know, some, you know, semblance of stuff that, like, while I signed up in the reserves, this was like at the tail end of this time frame was when I went into the military. So a lot of the stuff is kind of like the leftover stuff that we would hear from those that came back from Desert Storm and things along those lines. Like, for the most part, by the time I came in, they all that stuff was pretty much back here at home, and all the Humvees were, you know, trashed, I guess, for the ones that they had out there and stuff. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far, taking it easy at this point. But overall, I would say this is, I don't know. From a game of the year kind of standpoint, I would love to see it nominated, but I just get that feeling that if it wasn't Xbox or Microsoft owned, maybe it would be considered. But I just get a feeling that the Keeleys are not going to.
I mean, IGN gave it a 9. That was a hell of a surprise, right?
True, but I think at this point they recognize that if they had given it anything lower, I think they would have become less and less relevant in their, you know, attempt to downplay anything that comes over from, you know, first party studios over at Xbox. So I won't say that they had to give it a 9. I think they had to admit their enjoyment of it and not do the critiques. Well, will this save Game Pass? Will this save Xbox? No, luckily they didn't do any of that nonsense in their review. But overall, I think if this gets nominated, this will probably win awards in some areas outside of, Keeley's award ceremony. But this is definitely a better received than Modern Warfare 3, and dare I say it, maybe better received than Modern Warfare 2, which I think a lot of people were looking forward to as well. But this one seems to have quite a bit more buzz and energy.
That was a nostalgia thing, though, I think, with MW2.
Yeah.
That was more nostalgia than anything. This is fresh. This is new. And I haven't felt this energy, like I said, in my opinion. I don't know if you agree, but in my opinion, since Black Ops 2. You know what I mean? I stood in line for Black Ops. That was the last COD. I actually went to got off work early. I was working in Circle K, got off work early, and went and stood in line and got the game with some of my coworkers and a lot of my buddies, and we really pretty much played that game all day, every day for the next 3 or 4 days straight. So I'm not saying it's getting that kind of buzz. I'm not saying that because I don't think it will. We may never go back to that. That's just a cultural thing at this point, social media thing. But notwithstanding, I think that from a general perspective, this is the most well-received the COD's been in at least like I said, since BO2, in my opinion. I know Modern Warfare 2 was well received. I just feel like people really wanted a good experience, and they felt like, okay, if we at least get back to the old one, we could at least feel good about playing COD again. I feel like it was more that than just like, oh, this is really good and new.
Yeah. No, like I said, this definitely has a lot of momentum behind it. Like looking at my friends list right now online, there's like more than 90% of them are playing COD. The others are like a mix between, like usual games, like I guess you could say some of the free-to-plays. And then there's, what do you call them? Metaphor is about the only other one that's really showing. Like before Call of Duty showed, a majority of the list was playing Diablo. Now, there's still some playing Diablo, but nowhere near as many in comparison to Call of Duty at this moment. So I'd be curious to see what they say as far as Game Pass numbers. Just from curiosity, I don't really care how it performs any other way kind of thing, but it is great to see it's in the service. And if it's getting this much buzz overall, as far as people on all platforms playing at this point, it'd be nice to see if Microsoft kind of throws in some of the suggested skin ideas, whether it's from Halo or other,
I'd love to see some collabs. I'd love it. Yeah.
So hopefully they capitalize on that. But other than that, right now, I think they got a winner on their hands, as they normally would have. But, maybe this can have enough momentum to carry through to next year without having to have a brand new Call of Duty. So that gives them more time to, dedicate as much time to each upcoming title, and not necessarily taking a break between each year, but continuing in like, I guess you could say like an extended story type of deal.
Yeah. I was just going to bring that up too, Fight. I think it's an interesting point because it's something that we talked about during the lead up to the acquisition and stuff, what they were going to do with Call of Duty. And I think most all of us were on board with give Call of Duty more time in the oven.
Yeah.
Let it, take a year off or whatever the case may be in between. And I think, Mav and all of us pretty much have hashed it out to this point. Probably the best way to do it would to be have alternating games from Infinity Ward and Treyarch as your two main studios. They rotate every 2 years, right? So that they have a 4-year cycle, right? So, but in between you have Sledgehammer do an expansion. In between, you have Sledgehammer do some type of expansion, or have part of Raven, because Raven's got a lot on their plate too, right? They help with Warzone, they do a lot of stuff as well. But have part of the Raven team be a full-time campaign for Call of Duty. Work with Sledgehammer to expand the campaign or the story out, or have some type of DLC drop, a big drop in the in-between years, and that's how you should probably rotate, because if this is what you're going to get. And again, Infinity Ward, even if you're in the camp of PTK where he just thinks that Treyarch's better, there's no denying that Infinity Ward is a freaking A-list Call of Duty developer. So if you're going to give Treyarch this time and they produce this type of Call of Duty, you give Infinity Ward that same time so that the next mainline Call of Duty game is like this as well. And now what you've done is start to establish Call of Duty back again as, not that it never was, because again, it's one of the biggest sellers. It's always weird to talk like this, but again, if you weren't around during the prime of Call of Duty,
we're having a prestige conversation.
Before Warzone, right?
Yeah.
But you could have that resurgence of Call of Duty, not just being the game that everybody plays because all their friends play, or not just being that game that everybody slaps down their money each year because it's the thing to do, right? But because they want that next game. And I think that year off could do that, especially if the quality jumped to this level between Infinity and Treyarch every other time, with a nice expansion in between to fulfill, that kind of people. Because again, there's no reason, if Black Ops 6 is this good now, as they continue to work on it, unless they break this game, unless they do something incredibly stupid with it, there's no reason this game won't continue to roll next year. And if you throw some refresh next year as an expansion or whatever the hell you figure out to do, well, then there's no reason why you can't keep this money making rolling without doing a whole brand new mainline game, right? I just think it's really possible to work this out in this manner. So
I agree. No. I hope that's the avenue that they take, just for the fact that I think at that point, like you said, if each of those teams have like a 4-year window, then you'll keep this energy going. Although I'm pretty sure shareholders are going to want those dollars. But considering Modern Warfare 3 did well, and that was kind of that idea of that expansion to some extent that was turned into a full game, be it that it was to, close contract, but, whatever the case may be, go along those lines. I think you have a formula that will continue to deliver, billion-dollar weekends after each release at this point, and have it where maybe the off year, quote unquote off year, is more of your expansion, and then you push microtransactions or season passes or skins and things like that heavily to kind of cover that difference and go from there.
And you come out with a $30 or $40 expansion, it's going to sell like mad. It's going to sell like crazy. People will buy it. People will stay in the Call of Duty, especially, again, if you're building this quality games. Vanguard, a Vanguard quality game isn't going to continue to make it, right? They're not going to continue to make money. But what we're talking about, if this is what you're going to get by giving it extra time between your two best studios, if you're going to give it, and this is how it's going to work out for them because of the extra time that they can spend on these games, then yes, it stays viable because people will continue to play these games. And you drop a $30, $40 expansion on them, everybody's going to lap that shit up. And again, like you said, Fuzzy, you just keep rolling out the skins, you keep rolling out the special packages, people keep buying because they're not going to stop playing Call of Duty.
Maybe throw a couple collabs in there.
Right. Throw some more collabs in there. Again, there's just so much of value that you can see happening if this is how it's going to work. Now, I'm not saying they're going to do this. Like you said, Fuzzy, it might come down to shareholders, and we might just go back to the standard, hey, force one out every single freaking year, right? But I can't believe that they can't look at Black Ops 6, and if this train continues to roll, and they see the success continue to mount as they release new maps, as they get out the character skins, as the season passes start rolling, and this rolls into next year, and they don't see a dwindling base playing this game, but they actually see a consistent standard amount of players that you couldn't convince, costs come back, that you couldn't convince the shareholders that you could make enough money to warrant that year off. I think that this is a chance.
Absolutely. And the crazy thing about this is that there's a key thing here that we're not talking about. A good Call of Duty, a good mainline Call of Duty absolutely is beneficial to Warzone. So I don't think people really understand that.
Yeah.
So the good mainline Call of Duty, because it hasn't been in a while. Warzone's carried Call of Duty for a very long time. At this point in time, Warzone has carried Call of Duty. In all intents and purposes, by every single metric you can think of. Viewership, sales, all of that. The mainline Call of Duties do well. They're still some of the most sold games each year. But from a general standpoint, most people are talking about the narrative people care about is Warzone, not the mainline COD, outside of the initial sales surge that they get when a game drops every year. But a mainline Call of Duty is extremely important for Warzone every year. But like you said, it helps extend the lifeline. If you're going to give people another option, because listen, as good as Warzone is, that community is rubber bandy too. They come and go. Sometimes they love Warzone, sometimes they don't. But giving people another option to lean on, a really good multiplayer, that kind of softens the blow. That gives Warzone time to do other things. That allows it to be creative. You open up all kind of possibilities, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it like you said, the best way to describe it is a all around Call of Duty is going to help all those teams. It's going to help teams outside of those teams because it takes pressure off a lot of people. This takes pressure off of Sledgehammer. This takes pressure off of Raven in their next game that they're going to do next campaign, or if they're on to Warzone, if they're working on Warzone like they are too. It takes pressure off everybody in that umbrella when you've got a healthy Call of Duty, and you're going to add more players back because there are players like me who just don't like Warzone. I don't like battle royales. Yeah. There's still us out there, and it's not like we're some small 10,000 group of gamers, right? Yeah. We're talking about a very large group of gamers that just don't play Warzone like that. If you bring back the classic multiplayer to Call of Duty and you really can hit quality wise on the upcoming map drops that you're doing to the level that you had out of this first, I think it's 16 maps that they dropped initially, 12 or 16, I can't remember. If you can continue that and you bring more of us back into the fold and make this a part of our regular rotation, guess what? That means more money in the coffers too. That's another added benefit that helps everybody. Again, rising tide, obviously floats all the boats, and that's Absolutely. The same in there because when you got the mainline Call of Duty struggling, like you said, PTK, Warzone's there and has been there in the past, like during Vanguard to carry it. And again, I say that lightly because Vanguard still sold extremely well. Yeah. It just didn't sell
like 25 million copies or something.
It didn't sell to the level that it's that they wanted, but it still sold incredibly well. But I'm just saying that in general, that does make Warzone, that does put the pressure on everybody that's on Warzone to carry the load more, which is fine. Again, that's part of the business. But this right here, again, gives everybody a sigh of relief, a deep breath, and everybody can go, okay, we got this now. Let's do this because we figured out what we were missing or what has been kind of lacking. And now all of a sudden, we have seemed to capture more happy people than we have in a long time. And I just think that helps all the devs underneath that umbrella. And I think it's a good thing overall.
1,000%. And I want to ask both of you guys a quick question, kind of in relation to Xbox. And I know we're going to be talking about this on and off for the next hour as well, too. But looking back at this, right, when this deal was initially announced, so we talked about this. Obviously, some people downplay it. I don't know why. Call of Duty was the biggest talking point when this deal was first. That the majority of the people, when we saw this that morning, when we woke up to this tweet, a majority of people thought the next thought was what's going on with Call of Duty or what's going to happen with Call of Duty. So, like, being fair, where this is at, is this best case scenario for Xbox? Because we didn't know. A lot of things could have happened. The ABK deal, they went through that for 2 years, right? Trying to get that all squared away, went through heaven and earth to get that deal signed and moved and cleared and everything they need to do, right? And then you come out of it with a good Call of Duty, right? Like, you come out of all of that with a actual good Call of Duty, one that, is generally well received. Like, is this best case scenario for Xbox? Either one of you, go ahead, yeah.
I guess I'll go. Like, I think it is one of the better cases as far as what the outcome could have been. The only thing I would have liked to seen, although I don't know if it would have fared as well as things are right now, but I think it would have helped the Xbox brand overall, is if this was decided early on that it was going to be next gen only. And it's not to slight the PS4 or the Xbox One owners out there, but I think at that point, if they had made it next gen only, all things considered, I think it would have helped sell more, Series S's or at least the 1 terabyte one. And I know that doesn't necessarily matter as far as, the outcome of Call of Duty, but I think for part of what Xbox was looking to accomplish with this acquisition, I think it would have helped part of what they initially were trying to do, but it seems more as of more recent that may not be, the console isn't as much of a focus. It's still an essential part of their plan moving forward. But I think in the console space of things, had they decided early on to make it next gen. I think that would have been the only thing that would have been better than this current outcome, at least from a Microsoft and Xbox standpoint. Now, as far as gamers out there that now all of a sudden have to upgrade, they may not be happy, but I think they would be happy enough considering that, with the price of Game Pass and maybe a Series S on sale, bundled or something to that effect.
Like you just said, paint the picture, right? Like not only that, but you're doing it on the back of a good game. People buy things if their friend said, "Hey, this is really good."
Yeah.
Like I'm way more inclined to go buy a Series S or X if all my friends are like, "Dude, this Call of Duty is fucking killing it." Like, dude, you got to play this. Like it's way easier to justify that purchase, right?
Yeah. I mean, they did it for NCAA football, so I think this would be the bigger testament as far as getting those people to upgrade from last gen to current gen. So, but that's just my perspective on it. But I think all things considered, this is probably best case scenario of what Xbox was hoping for and what Activision was hoping for. Things could have definitely gone south or sour in so many different ways, but it looks like they already had a good game plan, and timing was perfect, like you guys had said earlier. You couldn't ask for better timing at this point.
Okay, go ahead, Punk.
Are we just talking in general here, like where Xbox, like what else? What else could have been done? Like,
well, that you can kind of throw that in too, but just generally knowing what we saw, the entire road we watched them go through, everything they went through with the ABK deal and the ups and downs, coming out of that with everything we know. Where's where the game is at, how everything landed? Like, is this is this about as good as you could have thought it would be?
Well, yeah, and I think that's kind of what I brought up. Sorry, I've been on a coughing fit, so I got tears in my eyes and everything else. I think that's that is the point that I was making. Like, this is like your best case scenario. This is your perfect timing moment for Xbox and Microsoft to have a game of this a Call of Duty game of this quality from one of your best studios at Activision drop right now, right at the end of that marketing deal, right when you start making Call of Duty your own again. Like, you couldn't have asked anything better. And this isn't just limited to Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Right. This is World of Warcraft is having a resurgence right now. If you guys haven't heard, they are in the middle of reviving World of Warcraft. It is having a massive resurgence. This is coming on the backs of Fallout 76, now reporting 5 million players.
Yeah.
This is on, at the same time, Satya coming out and saying that Microsoft now has 21 $1 billion plus franchises, IPs underneath their stable. This is everything that, again, we all saw that people wanted to deny. Again, the ABK deal was much more than just Call of Duty. But like I said in my opening, when I was talking about this, there was a lot of people who believed that they overpaid for ABK. And one of the main reasons why a lot of people thought they overpaid for ABK was because they thought that Call of Duty was on the downswing, that it wasn't what it once was anymore. Well, guess what? So far, again, we're only a couple days after launch, but so far so good. This looks like the Call of Duty of old. This looks like we could have one of the biggest sellers of Call of Duty, even with the Game Pass situation involved. We could have one of the biggest Call of Duties in history. I can tell you, probably matter-of-factly, that they saw a ton of people buy that $30 upgrade pack for the Ultimate, for the Vault Edition, right? I guarantee it. So they're going to make their money and then some off of Call of Duty, but this is overall could not have gone better. And I think this is what they envisioned. This is what, obviously, there is no gimmies. There's no layups in video games. Some people would disagree and say, well, Call of Duty's a layup every year. But again, it's not a layup because of the money spent. The resources put into Call of Duty, it's one of the biggest gaming franchises from that standpoint as well. This is one of the most expensive gaming franchises to make. And you're talking about a lot of people that work on this game, thousands of people. You're talking about basically an entire company working on one game. So from that standpoint, right? It's not a layup, because at any given moment, that popularity can start to drop, and any little drop can really hurt. So to come back in this fashion out the gate with your first full-fledged Microsoft Xbox branded Call of Duty is extra special, and I think it's got to put a smile on everybody's face over there, including the money men at Microsoft. It's got to put a smile on their face that the reception has been so fantastic, and we're just at the beginning of this game's life. And that's I think they're gonna see a massive return on investment for this Call of Duty that is going to help the other franchises underneath that ABK as well. And then you're gonna see World of Warcraft again start making more money. They're talking about all these new games in development now. New studios being formed. We're talking about some type of StarCraft game being developed. Right? This is what we envisioned was the possibility. So let's see if they can keep it going. Again, nothing's guaranteed, but this is a great start from one of your biggest IP now in Call of Duty to show up this way. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
1,000%.
Sure.
1,000% sure. And it's funny that, shout out to chat. So Steele said your mic was peaking a bit. He said you got to turn it down. It sounded pretty good to me, but once again, you may want to tweak it a little bit, Pong, just to try and even that out. But I 1,000% agree with everything you said, brother. And it's funny that shout out to Thatch mentioned it in chat that he said this is what Jim Ryan was worried about. And there probably is some truth to that. Like, I think we can almost confirm it at this point. This is exactly why they went and spent what they spent on Bungie and said, "Who gives a shit about those books? We're not even going to look at those until we after that check clears." Right? We don't even care about those. What books? Right? And then they went and did some of the things, and then Jim took the whole, game as a service, live service initiative, and said, you know what? No more first party stuff until we get these 15 live service games out the door. Right. And then that didn't necessarily pan out the way that they thought it. So it's just crazy to see all of this come full circle. And we talked about this too, Pong. And I'd love to hear your take on it now. I don't think I've even asked you this, you or Fuzz, since the deal's been done. But we talked about this kind of coming around and kind of biting Sony a little bit, Pong, right? And we don't really know the impact. I might be talking out my ass here. I can't really put the egg before the chicken, but it seems like this might be something that they're looking at like, damn it, this is exactly what we were trying to prevent.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why Jim fought so hard. I mean, there's no mistake about it. And Steele or whoever, just let me know if you're hearing me peak still. I turned it down a little bit. I'm used to having to be up on my old mic too, so maybe I probably was creeping up on it a little bit closer than I need to be on the new one. But yeah, this is why Jim fought tooth and nail to prevent this from happening. Because, yeah, this is definitely the outcome. Because, like I said, we could sit here and say that they should be doing more marketing, that everywhere we look, there should be a Game Pass Call of Duty sign. Everywhere we look, there should be ads running with Game Pass and Call of Duty attached to it. Everywhere we look, there should be, Series X and Series S bundles with Call of Duty all over them. Yeah, we could sit here and nitpick all that stuff, but the facts are the facts that they have done a ton of marketing. Call of Duty's budget for this game was supposedly up there with the movies as far as marketing goes, and we saw some massive promotions around the globe for this game specifically, and at every one of those, there was an Xbox, right? There was an Xbox attached, like you got the Xbox screen flash, right? And in many of them, you did even get Game Pass from time to time as well. So I think they've already started identifying that Call of Duty, and I think the masses have already started to figure out that Call of Duty is a first-party title from Microsoft and Xbox, that it is available on their ecosystem, that there are eventually, again, we'll start seeing them perks here and there that we get over on this side if you are part of this ecosystem, which is what Xbox wants. But this is exactly, this is what Sony was afraid of. This was a big part of their base that buys their system because of where all their friends play. It's not because all their friends play single player first party Sony games, because they don't play those together. It's because all their friends play Call of Duty and Madden on PlayStation. And obviously Call of Duty being the big one with all the marketing rights for all these years. This is the turnaround, and this is the power of having AIP like Call of Duty associated with your brand. And it's just started. Year by year, again, if the quality remains like this, if this is going to be the new way forward, we're seeing a kind of a second resurgence of Call of Duty. then yeah, people are really going to start associating, and there's going to be people who question come the next generation. I know libraries and digital libraries are important, but if Xbox has a handheld, if Xbox has an entry point level type box that gets you in, if technology continues to go as fast as it is right now, and all of a sudden cloud gaming isn't the bullshit that a lot of us experience right now, but it gets better and better and better, suddenly that viability of somebody going, you know what, I'm still going to pick up that PlayStation because my boys do play over here, but you know what, I'm going to jump into the Xbox ecosystem too because they've got a lot of benefits, and I'm seeing a lot of games over there that I do want to play. Sure, they're everywhere, but I think I could, maybe see some financial benefit if I join Game Pass, because I do play other games outside of Call of Duty, but every year I get in Call of Duty too. Okay, cool. I just think that they're starting to add that value piece by piece, and Call of Duty is going to be a big marketing tool for them going forward.
Starting to come together, man. They're starting to look at things a little bit clearer. Obviously, we don't know, anything can happen at any time, but it's interesting looking back on this stuff, looking back at the conversations we had before, right? Because this was a heavy debated topic once this deal was announced, right? What the hell was going to happen with Call of Duty, and how was it going to function going forward, and who was going to be the biggest beneficiary? Was it PlayStation? Is it going to continue to be them? Is it going to be Xbox? Are they going to do what they need to do? So seeing where it's at, and it's funny that you brought up Call of Duty kind of getting back to its glory before Fuzz goes here. It's ironic that the timing for all of this, imagine now you see this resurgence, not only in Call of Duty, you got Halo potentially making a resurgence. You seeing the big change with Halo, right? The UE5 stuff, right? Like we don't know how obviously that's going to play out, but imagine if that gains a little bit back as well too. We don't know, but they did the devs at Halo Studios, I almost said 343. Holy shit, right? The devs, I still got to get used to that. The devs at Halo Studios seem really passionate, and they emphasize getting back to what made Halo great. Very same energy that we're seeing from this Black Ops 6, right? So imagine that kind of coming back, and you got two of the biggest shooters getting back to what people enjoyed about them, right? Like that's a real possibility. On top of not only having that, you got other things under Activision that you can do. You have obviously the other first party games coming out too that are probably going to be awesome. So for us, like, think putting that picture together, bro, like how that's super beneficial for Xbox going forward.
Yeah, I'd have to get slanderous for a bit here, just for the fact that I remember when so many people were like, "Oh yeah, Bungie deal is the better deal as far as it'll benefit Sony more, from an economic standpoint." And it's like, oh yeah, looks like they got that one wrong too. But in the grand scheme of things, this is, looking at how Phil picked certain studios that they wanted based on, probably some of the stuff that they saw behind the curtain. Avowed was probably that title when it came to Obsidian. Clockwork Revolution was probably that title with inXile, and so on. So there was a ton of strategy in that, and the deal just happened to fall in their lap where internal turmoil over at Activision made it a viable deal to be able to say, well, how much will you guys take? Oh, 70 billion sound good? Oh, okay. Yeah. Let me get the check. Let me make sure I can get that written up here real quick. Kind of thing. But it all paid off in the end, as far as what we can tell at this moment. And it's good to see that all of the naysayers that were like, oh, they don't know how to manage, they don't know how to do this, internal this, all these other issues. And it seems like things are looking on the up and up. Meanwhile, Team Blue, the ones that they always say, well, they should be able to manage like, Sony does. And it's like, now we see Sony is in its own, like, dumpster fire moment at this time when it comes to Bungie, as well as some of the other studios that they've closed, and that whole initiative to move towards these games as a service, and not really having the team that could carry them across that finish line. Like, yeah, Destiny 2 is definitely a good games as a service game, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they can teach others. Perfect example being Concord and Firewalk, or whatever that studio is, before they wind up closing them, kind of thing. But yeah, I think at this point in time, looking at that acquisition, we talked about how it was going to be a turnaround moment for Xbox in long term, as far as they will be one of the biggest publishers out there, if not the biggest publisher out there, and they'll be able to reach gamers in ways that they only dreamed of before. When Phil used to talk about the 2 billion gamers, well, they're probably going to be able to reach that now, not necessarily subscribe to Game Pass or in front of an Xbox console, but they will be playing an Xbox game at some point, whether it's on mobile, PC, or some sort of console or something. But I think this is all coming together as far as the way that they kind of wanted. And yeah, there were some layoffs and some closures.
Yeah,
and whatnot,
yeah.
But that's part of the business when it comes. And I hate to put it in those terms, but it's part of figuring out what pieces fit best. And if there's duplicate pieces, if they can't be readjusted or implemented elsewhere, then they have to be let go at that point. But it seems like they've now found their stride, and we'll see how the years afterwards hold up. But I think this is what Xbox needs in its portfolio, not just what Activision's doing, but like what Pong mentioned with Blizzard and them being able to bring back to life World of Warcraft or even StarCraft for that matter. Those were some of the World of Warcraft was one of those things where, because of some of their internal issues, people were starting to flee that and go over to Final Fantasy 14. So to be able to get those players back, to be able to get players back in China because of the whole NetEase deal is now reworked and able to go through, because Bobby Kotick is long gone, and whatever sour grapes those two had between them and NetEase is now past, kind of thing. They now have all the I guess the golden brick road in front of them to hopefully lay the groundwork for what's coming or what's coming in the future type of deal. But it's great to see where Xbox is right now. It's great to see that the naysayers were wrong in so many ways. And it's I think at this point it's now time for people to kind of look at Team Blue and start asking the questions that some of us have been asking for a while, like what is their roadmap, what is their goal or their end goal when these games as a service have been quietly shut down or canceled, and they still have a handful more to go that may seem like they're already dead on arrival before they even really get their full launch type of thing. It's an interesting time. Like, who would have thought at the beginning of this generation we would be looking at Xboxes at this quarterly pace, if not better than a quarterly pace, to the point where they got to push certain games back, and PlayStation is still using their third-party deals. Was it 3-4 years into the generation now? So I wouldn't have thought that. I would thought maybe after 2 years that their first party would start stepping up, but we'll see how it pans out. But I'm liking what I see so far with this Activision deal and how everything has turned out so far.
And it's ironic, just to kind of pivot the conversation here. Still talking about Xbox, still talking about COD, but just like how things pan out. Like we've Microsoft, Xbox has always been looked at, right? We've always looked at them as the online multiplayer box, right? They've always they've leaned into that. To be fair, they've leaned into them being I know Pong, you said earlier, the shooter box, right? That was a big thing, 360 era, you know what I mean? Xbox One era, the shooter box, right? So, and they leaned into that, to be fair, but they're good at it too. Like, we got to give them credit. They made, they're good at the shooter thing. They do the multiplayer thing. That's a lot of times that's their biggest innovations is in that space, right? To gaming as a whole, right? You know what I mean? The hard drive, right? In the Xbox, right? All these online related things. So they're really good at it. It's funny to see that that's the biggest strength, and to see things kind of turn to get to a point to where, PlayStation, at this point in time is not able to sustain a player base on a multiplayer game or online service game. It's funny because a lot of things, we talk about balance in this industry, right, Pong? Everybody talks about balance. We talk about us needing things. We're big on variety here at the shop. We all, me, you, Fuzz, love variety in gaming, and it's a big deal. Multiplayer gets a bad rap, but it's absolutely necessary, right? Like, it's absolutely necessary, right?
I mean, we see that right now. I mean, what's Sony chasing? Sony's chasing a multiplayer game to try to hold to hold the audience, right? That's what they're trying to do.
Just to put a point on that, I'm gonna let you finish here. Yeah. That's my whole point, to see things kind of flip on its head and to see the exact same thing you said didn't matter for a whole generation, 2 generations, I would say. All of a sudden, it's a point of emphasis.
Right. Because of where the industry's going and because of how things have fleshed out, it is again, Sony painted themselves into this corner, and because they had third parties like Activision who could fill the role that they no longer did themselves. Again, Sony back in the day made everything. They even had 989 Studios, a sports studio, right? They had sports devs. They did all of it. That was the Sony that I grew up on, right? That was the PlayStation that, or at least not grow up on, but more like being an adult through. That was the PlayStation I knew was a diverse lineup from their first party, from their third party partners, all of it. But they made a little bit of everything in house. They got away from that, obviously. That's something. And again, they found their specialty. And it worked for an entire generation, or a generation and a half, if you want to count the second half of the PS3 generation, when they kind of discovered it with Uncharted and Last of Us, etc. It worked for them. And they became the most popular brand outside of Nintendo in video games, which they already were huge, but obviously Xbox had taken a chunk out of them during the 360 generation, but they got back on top. And they used that to their advantage, and they started cutting these deals with third parties to fill in all the blanks, right, on their sheet. And they just felt like this was never going to end. They didn't know. They had no idea that Microsoft, the corporation, would all of a sudden, under Satya, with Xbox underneath Phil, decide to back Xbox and make Xbox a pillar of the Microsoft corporation. They never saw that in their crystal ball. They never looked. They thought everything was golden. They looked around them. Life was good. They dominated an entire generation. And this is what you get. So you painted yourself in a corner. The beast wakes up. Now, again, the beast has changed form from what we thought they were originally going to be, right? We thought they were going toe-to-toe. They aren't going toe-to-toe anymore, per se. But that doesn't matter. They're still taking pieces off the board now. That's what happens when you get a behemoth like Microsoft Corp who decides to start investing into an industry like video games beyond what they were. Now they're taking pieces off the board, right? First it was ZeniMax with your Western-style RPGs, right? And, games like that. And then it was, of course, Activision Blizzard King taking the crown jewel for Sony, which was Call of Duty, because of the percentage cut that they were getting from ABK. It was a big money maker.
A lot of their first party projects. It was keeping a lot of lights on.
It was keeping a lot of lights on. And now that's gone, right? They don't get the marketing deal anymore. They don't get the favoritism anymore. It's Xbox's home team now, right? So now they find themselves in this position where they need to go and try to do what Xbox, to your point, and something that we've talked about many times, have done for a very long time. And the reason why I came back to Xbox's ecosystem was the diversity of lineup. They just make a plethora of games. Now, people can argue they don't have the Sony games the way that they need them. The cinematic third person, sad dad games, like they don't have those. You can argue that. People have argued that. But outside of that, they have everything else that I love to play, and they have it in spades. And they've now gone out. People can bitch and complain and moan about going and buying up publishers. That doesn't matter. There's no rules against it. It's a part of business. Just so happens that Microsoft has got a massive bank to be able to go do it. They went out and bought, but they had already proven internally with their first party teams that they could do it. They have already had success after success before buying Activision Blizzard King, before buying ZeniMax. They had already had successes in this field, making games and IP and cultivating that IP and those games into billion-dollar franchises. This isn't something they just went out and bought like Jim was trying to do when he went and got, of course, Bungie. That's not what Xbox did. They already knew how to do these things internally. They just went and got more people who were experienced doing it, and they now happen to have 20 franchises, like I said before, that are billion-dollar franchises that Satya announced this week. So that diversity of lineup is massive. And Sony's playing catch up in that department. It is something that they are trying to force that isn't currently working. We all know this. We don't have to go back through it again. But that's why I still believe, even though Microsoft and Xbox aren't competing one for one anymore, even though they are putting their games in other places, they are set up for the future better than even PlayStation is. PlayStation has the popularity. There's no discrediting that. They're still selling consoles like mad. There is no discrediting that. But the fact is that down the road, as the industry continues to evolve, whether people here like it or not, the exclusivity conversations continue to die on a withering vine if you're not Nintendo, because it doesn't make any financial it doesn't have any financial reasoning anymore to do it, because you're not going to take the risks now with these games costing above $100 million plus in every instance. This isn't the old days, folks. This isn't $10 million exclusives where a company, a dev team could put out 3, 4, 5 exclusives in a generation, and if 2 of them hit, they more than made up enough profit to make the parent company happy. It's not working like that anymore. 100 million, 200 million, 400 million dollar exclusive projects that take 5 to 6 years, nearly an entire generation to make. And if that game doesn't hit, bye-bye. That's the new era that we are in. They have to fix it, but, right? It's not turning on a dime. Sony can't turn on a dime. They can't change it. Microsoft has already been prepping for this. Xbox has already been prepping for this. They're already in full swing thinking about 10 years down the road what it's going to look like. And they're expanding their horizons. People don't like it. Like I said, I don't like it. I wish they were competing one for one. But I still think they're set up better than anybody else right now for that future run as we get into this digital age and as gaming changes even more with AI and cloud development and all that kind of stuff down the road. So I think it's important what they did. Yeah, it's a big step.
Yeah, huge, man. Shout out to everybody in chat watching, man. Quick shout outs, Lad, Talos, Froggy. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us, man. Shout out to all you guys. Once again, retweet the link. Let everybody know.
The Moat, PTK.
Podcast.
The Moat.
Yeah, we talked about it. We talked about that. It's so funny that we had these. That's why I said it's so funny that I gotta bring these up, because I remember the conversations we had previously. Those shows 100 shows ago, right? 120 shows ago, we were talking about this and figuring out, like, trying to predict what this was gonna like 12 months from now, like now, right? Now that we're having these conversations, so it's extremely funny. You know what I mean? Sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong, but this one felt like. This was just I felt like we saw this. It just takes time to kind of like work itself out. Like, this is the intended play.
And they changed it. I mean, they flipped the script a little bit, right? They flipped the script, but ultimately it still winds up in the same spot. They created the moat, insulated themselves from the rest of the industry, however you want to describe it. The rest of the industry can collapse, right? If that's what's going to happen, the rest of the industry could turn their backs on Xbox and Microsoft right now. And they could still go produce pretty much now at this point any type of game that they want to, right? Outside of the East, which again is why I still think they got one more play in the East. But that's the moat, the insulation that we all talked about. And even they don't have to worry about. Yeah, they don't have to worry about anybody else and what they're going to do in this industry. They don't have to worry about it. Of course they do, because Phil wants to see the industry healthy. Satya wants to see the industry healthy because it means more money for everybody if this industry continues to grow. So of course they want to be good stewards to the industry. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if other people or bad faith actors make bad decisions that cause this industry harm, Xbox and Microsoft have now enough underneath their umbrella to do whatever they still need to do to continue to pump out content on a regular basis, a continuous basis, without worrying about anybody else.
I think that's a big thing. I think that's the biggest thing for Xbox, in my opinion. You know what I mean? I want Fuzz to elaborate on this too. I mean, you know, like you said, we can't predict the future and how this is all going to turn out, and things change. And obviously, you know, Satya, you got the board, you got people obligations, right? People got to get paid, right? Obviously, that's the primary function of the board and Satya. That's to make sure everybody pockets are lined properly, right? Unfortunately, right, to some demise. But to be fair, even if you say, okay, that's the long-term goal, Fuzz, if that's the long-term goal, even the way they're going about it is still at least palatable to me. The way I play video games right now, how I play video games, how I go about it, we're still getting more content faster. The quality's only gotten better. The marketing's gotten better. They've seemed to right the ship on a lot of things, at least take direct feedback from the fans and, you know, people that have been following Xbox and that are true fans of Xbox for a lot of the things that they're doing. And I think that's really important. They're showing positive improvements in a lot of areas. And I think that goes a lot of way, even if the long-term goal is, hey, we're going to be all over the place.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest part that some of their original fan base will have to come to terms with to some extent. But I think the big thing is, as long as you're subscribed to Game Pass or if you're committed to console, nothing really changes for you other than you don't have the talking points that, oh, well, this is exclusive solely to this platform. But you do get the games that we've been asking for years. You do get all of the other pluses with their hardware, like things like Quick Resume, I forget what it's called as far as like the updates for free kind of thing, but you get all of those other things that they've, you know, focused on the console specifically to make the, you know, the gaming experience as a whole and an improved one over, you know, the Xbox One generation. The only real difference is now, well, it's not really that much of a difference, but everything is over on PC at the same time. On occasion, a more PC specific game might come to PC first until they can get the controller config set for it. But other than that, with games going over to, let's say, you know, Switch or Switch 2 in that case, or even the PlayStation platform, it's not like they'll be able to play them right away, at least in the current time frame that we see. So if you're looking forward to playing these games as soon as they're released, or you know, within that window when they're coming to the Xbox platform or PC platform, the best place to play is going to be on Xbox. Or if you have the wherewithal and the cash to go along with it, play them on PC. I wouldn't say a singular platform at that point, but it is a, you know, very complementary platform, whether you like playing on PC or like playing on console or bouncing between the two, or you happen to be in the portable PC crowd. So right now, from a platform standpoint, they are finding their audience, or a larger audience than what they would have just solely sticking to console only. But on the flip side of things, some of their more, I guess you could say, more costly titles that aren't necessarily the, you know, pillars for that platform, like your, you know, Indiana Jones and things like that, you might see over on the other platforms in 6 months to a year or whatever the case may be. And in that case, if your option is still to buy them over there, by all means, buy them over there, because it's still going to contribute to the bottom line for Xbox to have more funding for future games or future hardware and so forth. So I would say for the console gamer, it doesn't really change much. For the console and PC person, doesn't really change much either. Probably the biggest thing would be those that might be on the sideline or anxiously waiting the handheld. I think that's the big opportunity as far as their next.
We're gonna see how that works out.
Because, like, for me, as long as if that hardware is able to play console games and PC games natively on that device, I don't need a Steam Deck 2 at that point. And it would be easier to have it where whatever I have on Steam, I can play on my Xbox or on my PC, logged into my account. Maybe I still am able to access, you know, achievements or things along those lines. They'll have to figure that out on the back end. But one device, that can play them all, or one ring to rule them all kind of thing. I think that's the direction that they're going to be moving to between now and next gen, and we'll see how it goes. But for me, I'm loving this Game Pass and PC console overlap until they have one piece of hardware that can do it all for me. So I'm happy with it the way it is right now.
It's crazy that you brought up that handheld. I know we haven't talked about that in a little bit, but I'd like to get you guys' position on that too, man, since you brought it up, because that's also, we're talking about Call of Duty. All of this plays really into it, right, Pong and Fuzz? Like the whole Call of Duty Game Pass, it's all that's the overlying point that we're trying to make, right? Like, even if you don't like the direction that they're going, at least the plan feels concise. It feels like put together, right? It doesn't feel like they're just throwing things at a wall right now. It felt like that a few years ago, right? Yeah. Like when we were going through this transition period, it felt like, what the hell is going on? And that's where all the confusion and conversations, and you see less of that now, to be fair. I don't see as many of those conversations. You see some people that can't help but be inflammatory, whether it's for just like viewership purposes, right? Because that's the next big headline. But you do see less of it now, because I think Xbox is just better at getting their point out and then showing why this makes sense. Like, this is why we're doing this, even if you don't like it, right? Like, even if you don't like it, this is why we're doing it. They've gotten better at that, a lot better at that. So, just about the handheld, man. So one, we're all in chat. You guys can chime in on this. What's the percentage on this handheld thing being revealed sooner than later? Are you guys 90+% on this, Pong and Fuzz, that we're getting a handheld, right?
Yeah, I think I'm hoping we get to see something at the Game Awards this year. I would love for it to come out in 2025, but I can understand if it's a 2026 target. But I think a handheld can be that device because of how things work with PC per se, that it could be a go-between between this generation and next generation and still be useful, several years into the next generation without it being, the device that holds things back kind of deal. Because the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally aren't holding things back at the moment. So neither should that handheld. So I think showing it at, holiday 2024 for a holiday 2025 or sooner release date would be ideal. The key thing is you're not going to beat out the Switch 2 as far as the timing per se. But you could beat out the Steam Deck 2, and I think that would be the ultimate target. Not that needs to be the direct competition, but you're going to have a little bit stiffer competition for the area that Microsoft is looking to go from the Steam Deck 2 versus a Switch 2 kind of thing, because that is going to be the easier to use for the PC crowd or the console crowd that's, comfortable with PC at the moment, or the PC crowd that likes playing games on the go. If you put out that Xbox Series Go or whatever they decide to call it before then, you stand a better chance of courting some of those PC players, because now your games, especially being dual entitlement, you'll have it where they're already PC and console titles available, plus your access to your Steam library. So from a hardware standpoint, I think it would be the best, course for them to move forward and release that for next year. And then the big boy, under your TV regular console, for a full 2026. Now, whether that's a Series X, what do they call that? Not funded, but I forget the term now, but basically whether it's partially covered from Xbox where they take a little loss, or it's fully out of your pocket, balls to the wall hardware, we'll see. We'll see if that next console is 500 and below or 600 and above. I'm keeping my fingers crossed it's 500 and below, but I can understand if it's not. Yeah. So we'll see.
All right. Well, Pong, I wanted to ask you about that, the handheld situation. One, obviously, are you being co-mayor and everything, right? So we're 90+% on a handheld being done, like Xbox doing a handheld first and foremost, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. 1,000%. So first, now that that's out of the way, right? So when we get into the meat and potatoes of the question, how, I was telling Fuzz, we just talking about it, how does that change? We just talked about Call of Duty, Game Pass, all of these things, them finally kind of putting everything together, and it looks like it's making sense. Even to the biggest detractors, it's starting to get fairly obvious that they're committed to go in this direction, but at least it seems like they have a concise plan, and it doesn't feel like it's all over the place. So how does a handheld fit into that going forward for Xbox?
Well, it's they want. I mean, I think Fuzzy laid it out too pretty well there, and I think we've talked about it plenty of times. This is a part of the master plan that they now have to get to the 2 billion, 3 billion people, and the handheld is another access point. And to Fuzzy's point, right, they are trying to create an ecosystem that is seamless no matter where you play. And that is quite obvious. It's been obvious to me for a very long time, and we've had discussions for a couple of years now at least on this vision that we can see them doing. That, again, I envision their handheld just being like pick up and play right where you left off, whether you take the handheld, and it transfers the game save right to it from where you left off on the console, or you left off on your PC, or hell, you left off on your phone or your tablet. You pick up the handheld, you fire up the game. Oh, the cloud saves right there, just like it is between PC and console now. It downloads, takes really quick as they continue to speed up that tech as well. All of a sudden, you're back playing right where you were, right where you left off again. That's the vision I think that they have to garner this attention from 2 billion, 3 billion gamers, because we know that gamers around the world don't all game the same. They don't all game on the same devices. They don't all game the same way. So if Xbox can be kind of the first company to blur all the lines across devices in their ecosystem, where when you buy a game, you have access to it no matter what, right? And I'm not even just talking about the Xbox ecosystem per se, because we've heard that they might do this hybrid that Fuzzy was just talking about. So you might have other storefronts allowed in, and you have games from your Steam account or whatever else the case may be that you can also play on the handheld. But native gameplay for the Xbox stuff, and like Fuzzy said, right? One purchase and that game plays across all your devices. That's one of the biggest benefits right now that nobody talks about, dual entitlement or play anywhere as they call it. They just did it with two third-party games in Metaphor ReFantazio and Final Fantasy Pixels Remastered. Two games that they don't have Game Pass deals for, but are still play anywhere. Buy one version and you can download it on your PC and download it on your console. That's a massive benefit, especially for me. But if they
nobody
have
else
that,
is offering it, that's unique as well.
No, it's extremely unique, right? And if they can get it so that the vast majority of third parties, along with their own first party lineup, they're able to do that. And now you've got another system. You've got a handheld, you've got a box, you got your PC, you've got your Amazon Fire Stick. Maybe they come out with their own stick at some point. Who knows? That's probably been put on the shelf for a little bit. You got your phone, you got your tablet. Anywhere you log into that Xbox ecosystem, your library's sitting there waiting for you. Your saves are sitting there waiting for you. Saves, again, that we don't have to pay for, that other places charge for, Sony. But all your saves are there, and you pick up your games no matter where you are. You take a trip, you don't have to lug around an entire Series X with you because you've got access to it on whatever device you carry with you. Maybe it's the handheld. That handheld can plug in and play much like a console if that's what you want to use it for, right? That's your entry point. And it's going to be expensive. Like Fuzzy said, it's going to be expensive. There's no doubt about it. But they can offer a value that you can't find anywhere else with any of the other handhelds, the PC handhelds or anything. They're going to offer you value. Now, it's going to be up to the consumers. Like Mav and I were talking about on Thursday. We were talking about with Rand. Don't think the thing's going to sell, 120 million units, the handheld. That's not what we're expecting here, right? If they sell 20 million, if they sell 30 million handhelds, I think that'll be a fantastic starting point for them. getting back, for the first time ever, really for them, getting into the handheld market. PlayStation's coming with a handheld too, by the way. Don't you think that's not happening?
Yeah,
That's why
like,
this
come
is
on now.
guaranteed.
Yeah.
Xbox is coming. PlayStation will be behind them. But I think Xbox has all the advantage again because of what they can offer people. And the more times you put this in front of consumers, the more times you give them a chance to enter your ecosystem and you give them benefits after benefits, eventually that starts actually seeping into people's consciousness. Eventually, more people sit up and take notice. And I still think, again, I'm not talking about worldwide domination here. I'm not talking about Xbox becoming Nintendo, okay? What I am saying is, for all the people that said Xbox is dead, for all the people that say that they're going to have one more generation and they're out of the hardware business, you might be right, because that certainly is a possibility. But I still think there is a massive chance that if they pull off this handheld and they pull off this hybrid or whatever, it's got to be something big because, again, Sarah Bond has quadrupled down on her statement that they're going to have the biggest technological leap in any generation's history. If they pull this off and they give you two compelling pieces of new hardware that do things that no other any hardware provider can give you, I think they have a chance to grab some of the actual casual audience out there, the popularity audience, the masses, right? I think you have a chance to become, oh shit, whoa, wait, what? You can do, it only takes one friend to bring you over to show you what he can do. It only takes that one dude sitting next to you to show up with the Xbox handheld and start playing Grand Theft Auto on his handheld at lunchtime. It only takes that one friend to go over to his house and see his console and go, holy shit, weren't you just playing this on your handheld? Weren't you just playing that on the hand? And now it's on the TV like this. So like that's straight away, like that save is like right there. You're at the same exact spot. It only takes that to start happening where people go, maybe I do need to start thinking about having either the handheld or the new box at home from Xbox and jump into this ecosystem. Oh, wait, you can fire up Steam? Oh, what? Wait, you got your Epic Game Store on here? Yo, what?
GeForce Now?
That's all it takes. You've got a chance. Xbox still has a chance to garner a bigger piece of the pie, right? And as far as the actual hardware goes than they currently sit at, I still think they have a chance. I don't think they're dead in the water. But at the end of the day, no matter what, you are adding with the handheld another entry point that people in the East appreciate because most of them are mobile. That's why the Switch is so big over there, right? You enter that next to the PC handheld market that is becoming bigger and bigger. So people claim it's going to be a flash in the pan that's not going to last. Listen, if these companies, these big companies, Valve and everybody else is still behind them, I think they can continue to grow, and I think it could become more and more normal that people hold it up. You squeeze yourself in there, you offer native gameplay from that handheld, which other people aren't doing. You set yourself apart yet again. I think Xbox has a real chance, and I think that this the handheld for sure is going to be your first entry point into that new wave of tech that Xbox is going to be showing off over the next, let's say, 3 years or so, 2 to 3 years. And I think this is going to be a big, massive part of their plan going forward.
So I love everything you said. Shout out to chat for listening to. You guys chime in on how you guys feel about this, the handheld stuff and everything we've been talking about so far. Drop a like on the video as well too. Definitely helps it be seen, helps that algorithm. But I appreciate you guys, and I really just hope you guys are enjoying the conversation here. This is what we try and do every single week. And there's some cool things too about this too, Pong and Fuzz. Some just very obvious things that make this extremely beneficial for Xbox. One is that they're the new kid on the block when it comes to an handheld. This is brand new for them. So you have that mystique that you can't get from anything but a first time, right? Like that excitement that people have for a first time. You only get one time for the first time, right, Pong? So they're going to get like buzz just because this is the first time. And on top of the fact, I don't think anybody could have thought Xbox would actually try in reality do a handheld, right? For a long time, we talked about it. There's been mock-ups. People done made like homemade Xbox handhelds and put their own tech together and did it and stuff. I seen one on my timeline the other day. Some guy made a handheld, right?
The OG Xbox.
The OG Xbox handheld was really super dope, right? So seeing it can be done like that, it's really, really cool. But like, one, this is new for them. They're going to get a lot. People are going to be looking First and foremost, because holy shit, we didn't think Xbox would even attempt to do this. So one, all eyes are going to be on them for that. Two, it's awesome. Once again, we talked about timing with the ABK Call of Duty stuff and how this worked out perfectly with Black Ops 6. Same thing with the handheld, Pong and Fuzz. Guess what? Because they've had plenty of examples now on the market, successful examples on the market, right? The handheld space is not like VR. There's a lot of successes. There are real successes in the handheld space. There's a couple in the VR space, right? You got the Oculus, you got PlayStation VR to a degree, and I mean, you got some Meta Quest, right? You have that as well too. So you got a couple of, but like there's very few successes in that space. There's real successes in the handheld space. So they've gotten time to sit back and look at, like you said, ROG Ally. They've even partnered with them, right? They've looked at Steam, obviously, right, being huge. Hell, you even got to a degree Switch, and then Switch 2 coming up. So they've had time to really sit back and see successes. And hopefully that only benefits what we're going to get, right? So hopefully they've seen there that exactly what you're talking about, Pong, as far as we don't need to do this. We offer something because the way we built our ecosystem that the other two just can't. Like there's no way they can, right? It might cost a little bit more, but this is something that's compelling.
It's going to cost more. It's going to cost more. But the other thing that people rightfully say that that Microsoft as a corporation has tried a lot of different hardware, phones, tablets, again, Surface lineup. They've tried a lot of different things and not done well, right? And have actually dropped out a lot, right? As well. Like again, that's famously buying Nokia and then dropping out and Satya. Yeah, right. But the thing that people don't, and I think Fuzzy will back me on this, Fuzzy is much more of a tech guy than I am, but the thing that I think that can't be denied is that even though they haven't had the success going up against the likes of Apple or Google and all these other different companies with their hardware, they actually have some extremely talented in-house people that develop hardware. Their Surface team is extremely talented. Those Surface products, I owned one, an older version, were very well thought out and put together. They were extremely nice pieces of equipment and still are to this day for a lot of people. So I think that's the thing that never really gets talked about because of how many failures. It's always easier just to look at it and say, yeah, but it didn't sell. It didn't matter. Yeah, but quality wise and thinking outside the box and coming like the Surface Duo, for God's sake, the phone that didn't get any support and they dropped it, right? But still, nobody could say it wasn't quality. There was a lot of people who actually loved that thing and actually thought it was better than any of the other competitors on the market. It's just that it could never gain a foothold. You're going to have those people working along with the Xbox engineering team, right? Jason Ronald and all those wizards to put this handheld together. This is not going to be just like, oh, Xbox is trying something for the first time. Yeah, that's true. This is going to be the first handheld, but they've got super talented, experienced hardware people. This is not just some team they slapped together that came from a bunch of rookies that haven't done stuff like this before. Maybe they haven't done a gaming handheld, but they've got the experience of these kind of form factors. They've got the experience of making high-end tech hardware that has to go up against competition like Apple, like Google, and they have to fit themselves into those when they were making the other devices. So I think that's something that people do not give them credit for, and I think we could see some of the best work that these teams have done go into an Xbox handheld because of the investment that Microsoft is making into Xbox at this point.
Yeah. 1,000%. I'm just curious because, like you said, like this is really in my wildest dreams. We always have. We talked about it off and on. A lot of it's fan fiction, right? A lot of it's just hopes and dreams. Goddamn it, right? For years, it was like, well, I wonder if they even tried what it would look like, how it would play. So for them to actually take a real swing at this is compelling, all by itself, right, Pong? So. And then you look at it from the perspective, like you said, all that talent that they have in house. Another thing too, and I'm sure Fuzz can elaborate on this too. Is everything opening up with the whole mobile side, all those changes happening as far as like from a political side, them opening up Google's, you know what I mean, making it, dropping some of the restrictions on the store and allowing Microsoft to have their store, and then now they can build out their own mobile store, which ends up now you bring in the king part of that Activision deal, right? The Candy Crushes and a lot of that mobile stuff, because we can't discount that either, Pong, because like you said, the East and a lot of places, that's a majority of where they do their gaming, that is on a mobile device, usually a cell phone, right? So if you include that into the ecosystem, you put that all on one handheld device. And you have your own store on top of that. That's a very, very, very compelling piece of hardware for us.
Yeah, I agree. And they definitely have a great blend of hardware and engineers behind that, as well as the way they do their software. Now, at times, I think they could do a little bit more to make it easier in the sense of before they even come out with their own handheld, make software that's more unison for the ROG Ally, or even for those that may want to, overwrite the original Steam OS on the Steam Deck. They've had those betas in place, and if you really want to turn your PC into a super Xbox kind of thing, I think they could, make some inroads there as well. But overall, their hardware teams, like Pong was saying, between the Surface team, which some of them have now been working with Xbox in that regard, they have lost some of their head people in that regard, but the talent is still within the trenches as far as on the Surface end of things. And with Jason Ronald and his team, when it came to the ingenious stuff that they did with the Series X, and then putting that into a even smaller or portable form factor, which they've been tinkering around with in the background. I can't wait to see what they have. But overall, that's going to be where they show their strength. And I know a lot of people would prefer them to play the old school console head to head, way of business type of deal. But I think moving forward, going into this more, mobile or portable space with a handheld, also hitting that forefront as far as their mobile store, which hopefully they can extend that beta to more mobile users, because I know it's in its first testing phase, but I don't know how big of a sample they have right now. But they're definitely moving in a good direction in that regard, because you're now going to be able to purchase games through their cloud service and be able to stream those same games that are potentially outside of Xbox Game Pass. So they're working their way towards reaching those 2 billion gamers. They're working their way towards making that seamless transition, like Pong talked about earlier, where you're on the road, you're either playing it on your phone or the handheld. You get to the house and you can play it on your computer or your laptop or your console and pick up right from where you left off. And all of those things working together makes it the user-friendly experience that a lot of people will tend to gravitate to. Like, having to pay for cloud saves is the biggest thing I hate about PlayStation. It makes it so you either have to make sure you're subscribed to PS Plus before you trade in your old PlayStation, or you have to find a way to transfer your saves to a thumb drive, which, by the way, some publishers, Capcom in particular, don't allow you to do that. So if you have a save that you would like to carry over to your next hardware, your best bet is still to do the cloud save thing and pay for PS Plus, which sucks if you don't do a lot of online gaming, just to transfer all your saves over to the next hardware. Otherwise, just wait until you get the new hardware, then transfer everything over via the thumb drive or on your network, and then trade it in later or sell it later to somebody else, as far as the old console. But overall, Xbox is moving in a direction where that whole portability is going to be the thing that gets them more eyes on their ecosystem. The region in the East being more mobile centric or portable centric, while where the Switch tends to do a lot better than your traditional console. I think that's where they're going to make inroads. And then the whole court thing with Google, even though it's not necessarily Microsoft's case directly to take up, but they're definitely on the sideline, rubbing their hands together, watching how the FTC and even, the European Union and so forth have been making those stores more open, and Apple's continuing to drag its feet and, kicking and fighting this as long as they can, because they're quite happy making the money in gaming the way they are without having to lift a finger. They just make it off the backs of everybody else. So if Xbox or if Microsoft really gets into their store or on their devices, it's I don't think it's going to be as big of a chunk of revenue, but Apple doesn't want to lose any chunks of revenue to anybody if they can help it, especially on a device that they sell, because they'll try to, make you believe that it's, compromised without using only their store and only their credit card processor and whatnot. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out. But I'm looking forward to, try at least testing out the Microsoft Store on my Android device. I refuse to buy any iOS devices anymore. But all of that aside, with more open storefronts, I think that's better for consumers, and in the grand scheme of things, hopefully that will help digital pricing come down. I mean, when you compare digital pricing to physical pricing, you would think digital would be tons cheaper considering
yeah.
it
But it's
doesn't
not. It's actually going
cost the
other direction.
manufacturer and stuff. But having more of those open stores where you can choose, hey, I want the Microsoft store, or I want the iOS store or Android store, I think that will help, at least on some level, help lower some of the pricing for digital content, unless they're all in cahoots together for price fixing, which is illegal and they probably aren't going to be, but we'll see how it pans out. But yeah, it's great for everything moving forward for the consumer in the grand scheme of things.
Oh, facts. And just to kind of put a button on it before we wrap the show up here, shout out to everybody watching live. I was just kind of scrolling through, and I've been seeing on Twitter too. I know we kind of tying this all together with the Call of Duty stuff, the handheld stuff, that a lot of people are having some good success playing Call of Duty in xCloud. Some people are having a pretty good experience. I mean, and obviously this is all relegated to the Wi-Fi connection you're on. There's some context here. I don't want to just say that but it is getting better. They're working on it. I can see the next few years this becoming really viable to a lot of people. So, they're putting their eggs in their basket. They've always bet on cloud to be a big thing. So, maybe this is kind of the first. We're kind of starting to see that trend begin. But to that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show. Man, this was another phenomenal show. Good conversation. Enjoyed everybody in chat coming to hang out with us. Appreciate all you guys coming to watch. I do want to make sure I, let everybody know where you can find my fellas here. First and foremost, we'll start with you, Pong. Glad you could make it through, brother. Didn't have too many issues, no technical issues, right? So that's a big thing here too. But shout out to you coming through. Great conversation, brother. Always love talking to my brothers. No matter who's here, whether or not we have a guest or not, does not matter. I appreciate you two gentlemen for hanging out with me every single Saturday and putting on a good show for these people that come out and watch us. But let everybody know they can find you, brother.
Yeah, it was great to make it through this. Only a couple coughing fits in the background here, but my internet held out this week. So because I missed you guys last week. I was so pissed last week. It wasn't even funny, man. I was so ready to talk, and then nothing. But great show, PTK and Fuzzy. Great to have the three amigos here just rocking out and having a good time. Big conversation again about Call of Duty, Black Ops, and probably having this conversation even if they hadn't been acquired, just because Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is so good right now and because so many people are talking so positively about it. But obviously you throw in the impact on Xbox, and we got to have a discussion because it is something that is been a long time coming, and they spent $70 billion, and this is one of those pieces. So thanks for joining us tonight. I know you guys were having good conversation in there as well, and we appreciate you, all the support, coming out each and every week, and all this show and all the other shows. So nothing but love and respect to all of you for doing that. And you guys know how to find me. It's Pong Soul on X, formerly known as Twitter. Pong Soul on the Xbox, GOG, Steam, Epic. You find me, I'll find you back. Otherwise, next week, it always starts on Tuesdays, even though I'm not there anymore. I got to shout out the Double Barrel Gaming channel. I got to shout out Mr. Boomstick, the man, for the Xbox Factor podcast.
Shout out to Boom.
Boom's just rock and roll 5 days a week. The man's a machine. 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central Time for all good things green. The Xbox Factor podcast every Tuesday over there. Go check that crew out. And then, of course, my week starts with the Math, the Fun Speculation himself, the CEO of the Fun Speculation Network on Thursdays. He had to take over from the lead chair back from me last Thursday because, I could not get through the conversation with Rand. It sucked, too, because we had Rand on. We had a guest. We haven't had a guest in a long time. Shout out to Rand, by the way. You guys can go check out that episode. Lots of good conversations with Rand. But I could not stop coughing. But we'll be back this week, and I should be in the lead chair this week, Thursday night, on the Fun Speculation Network, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time, p.m. in the p.m. Pong and Mav in the p.m. every Thursday. And then Fridays, it's Xbox Ultimate. Yes, last night we did not have an Ultimate. We did a live stream, got the family back together. We were missing a couple people. Fuzzy fell asleep like the retired old guy he is. Shout out to Fuzz. And we missed him. And, of course, Steele was on his work week, so he couldn't join us. But we had the family back together, and we were rocking and rolling on Call of Duty Black Ops 6 like the old days. For those of you that have been around Xbox Ultimate, man, we used to game night every night after Xbox Ultimate. We had Halo nights, we had Call of Duty nights, man. We had so many different nights. We had a blast last night, so it was good. But join us next week. We'll probably have a regular show for Xbox Ultimate Friday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time. Or actually, no, I'm sorry, we're moved back now. 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time for Xbox Ultimate every Friday. And then, of course, Saturdays. Now, we haven't had one. We haven't had a living split screen in 2 weeks. Steele's had real life happening. That's what goes on, man. We miss you all. Steele said it again today, we are going to be back next Saturday. So, barring something crazy coming up, next Saturday will be the return of Living Split Screen. Steele and I will have a lot to talk about. We did do our stream of MechWarrior 5 Clans last week. We might get some Call of Duty in. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. He's got to work, so probably not. But anyways, join us next weekend, Saturday, Living Split Screen, all one word, Split Screen's all one word, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time, me and Steele, 3+ hours, buckle up, get ready. We're going to have a lot to talk about, a lot to cover for that return. Join us there, please, and thank you. Live, raw, and uncut every Saturday morning. Otherwise, it's the golden age of gaming. Everybody get out there and enjoy it, no matter what you're playing, and there is about, 2,000 games right now that you could be playing. Play what you love what you play, enjoy it, and we'll talk to you all real soon. Thanks, PTK.
Appreciate you, man. Go check out Pong. Easiest place to go keep up with him is the socials. All that information is down in the description. So shout out to you, Pong, for coming through, being a huge part of this show, the Duracell battery of the Shop Podcast, man. And appreciate you preaching that good word about going to play all these good ass games that we got to play right now, no matter what. So thank you for sticking with that motive every single week, brother. Appreciate that, man. And my other brother, Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere, coming through, brother, man. Another great show, great conversation, man. But let everybody know where they can find you.
Oh, this was awesome. Just love doing this on Saturday nights with you guys. Always a blast. Thanks to everybody in the chat checking us out, catching us live, and those that catch us on replay. Really, really appreciate you guys taking the time to check us out. If you can, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Always helps us with reaching that algorithm out there and reaching more viewers and things. But for those who want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, just follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Fuzzy_Belvedere. No Pixelated Echoes tomorrow. Or at least I don't believe there will be Pixelated Echoes tomorrow. We'll probably do a Wednesday show. So Monday will be Xbox Lunch Break Special at 12 noon on Double Barrel Gaming with Mr. Boomstick XL. And then FSP on Monday night on Fun Speculations channel at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Look forward to seeing everybody there. And then hopefully be right back here Saturday night, 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on this on PTK's channel. Same time, same place. Hope to see you guys in the chat there next Saturday as well. Thanks again.
Man, appreciate you, Fuzz, coming through. You guys know what to do. Go follow Fuzz on the socials as well. And the host here, last but not least, what's up, Will? You have to catch us on the replay, brother. Glad you can come through, though, man. Appreciate you. But yeah, last but not least, the host here, PTK Blam. You can find me everywhere, Xbox, Twitter/X. Find me there. That's where we're gonna be. You guys gonna find all Shop Podcast information. I keep telling you guys every week too, man. Hit me up if you guys want to see somebody on the show. I love having new people on here too. So send me the @ I'll reach out. I don't have no problems doing that. If you guys want to see a guest that you think would be cool to have here, man, I'm welcome to all of that. So let me know. DMs are always open. Other than that, once again, hit that like button if you enjoyed the show. We do this every single week. So if you come back every week, this is exactly what you're going to get and more every single week, man. But I appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out with us. Enjoy your weekend. Have a good weekend. Please be safe. Go play some damn video games. Put the phone down. Have some fun. See you guys later. Peace out.